If you love cats, if your heart softens when you see one hungry, cold, or seeking comfort, if you pause to smile when a cat walks past you quietly, minding its own business, then pause for a moment, because this love you carry, it is not random, it is not meaningless. Allah placed something in your heart, and today He has a message for you. Listen carefully. Love for cats is not something small or accidental. It is a sign of mercy that Allah Himself has placed gently within the human heart. When a person feels compassion toward a creature that cannot speak, cannot complain in words, and cannot demand its rights, it reveals something deep about the softness of that heart. This mercy is not learned from books alone, nor is it copied from others. It is a natural inclination that Allah plants in certain hearts as a reflection of goodness. A cat comes quietly, lives lightly, and depends silently, and yet it awakens tenderness in the soul. That tenderness is not weakness, it is strength shaped by mercy. Allah is Al-Rahman, the most merciful, and He allows His servants to reflect a portion of that mercy in the way they interact with His creation. When someone feels concern for a hungry cat, moves aside to avoid harming it, or feels peace simply in its presence, it shows that their heart has not hardened in a world that often teaches indifference. This mercy placed in the heart is a reminder of balance, teaching us to slow down and notice what others ignore. Cats do not benefit us materially, yet the heart still inclines toward them, proving that compassion does not need a reason to exist. Such mercy trains the soul to care without expectation, to give without recognition, and to protect without authority. It develops awareness, humility, and responsibility, reminding a believer that every living being has dignity and value in the sight of Allah. A heart that responds to a cat's vulnerability is a heart capable of responding to human suffering as well, because mercy does not switch on and off. It flows consistently. Allah nurtures this softness so that the believer does not become cruel through hardship or arrogance through strength, but remains grounded, gentle, and conscious of the Creator through care for His creation. Islam places immense emphasis on kindness to animals, treating it not as an optional virtue, but as a reflection of faith itself. From the earliest teachings, believers are reminded that animals are living beings created by Allah with purpose, dignity, and rights of their own. They are not objects for abuse or neglect, nor are they insignificant in the divine scale. Islam teaches that every creature glorifies Allah in its own way, even if humans do not understand that language, and this understanding transforms how a believer views animals. Kindness toward them becomes an act of consciousness, a recognition that Allah is the creator of all life and that humans are entrusted with responsibility, not dominance. When a believer feeds an animal, shelters it, or protects it from harm, that action is recorded not merely as good manners, but as obedience to Allah, rooted in awareness and accountability. The emphasis on kindness is so strong that Islam connects treatment of animals directly to reward and punishment, making it clear that cruelty is never overlooked. Acts of compassion, no matter how small, are elevated in value, while acts of neglect or harm are taken seriously. Islam teaches restraint even in moments of necessity, ensuring that animals are not caused unnecessary pain or suffering. This discipline trains the heart to be mindful, patient, and controlled, preventing harshness from taking root. Through these teachings, Islam shapes believers into caretakers who move through the world with gentleness, knowing that power is not proven through control, but through mercy. Kindness to animals becomes a daily practice of humility, reminding a believer that mercy is not limited to prayer spaces or human interactions, but is expressed in how one walks, works, and lives among all of Allah's creation. Cats hold a unique and gentle place in Islamic history and prophetic teachings, reflecting a broader message of mercy, cleanliness, and respect for all living beings. From the earliest days of Islam, cats were not treated as pests or nuisances, but were allowed to live freely among people, sharing their spaces without fear or harm. They were recognized as clean creatures, permitted to move in homes, places of rest, and even areas of worship, which speaks volumes about the level of acceptance and care encouraged in Islamic tradition. This natural companionship between humans and cats illustrates how Islam nurtures coexistence rather than domination, allowing animals to live without unnecessary restriction or hostility. The presence of cats in daily life served as a constant reminder of gentleness, teaching believers to be mindful of how they treat even the smallest and quietest of Allah's creation. Prophetic teachings emphasize this compassion by highlighting the importance of mercy toward animals and acknowledging their needs and nature. Cats, in particular, were never associated with impurity or blame, but rather with ease and balance, reflecting a faith that values practicality alongside kindness. These teachings shaped a culture where caring for animals was not seen as extraordinary, but as a normal expression of belief. Stories passed down through generations reinforce the idea that how a person treats animals is a measure of their character and consciousness of Allah. Cats became symbols of calmness and trust, living among people without fear, because the faith encouraged protection rather than harm. This historical relationship reminds believers that Islam is not a harsh religion, but one that weaves compassion into everyday life, guiding hearts toward mercy through simple, consistent actions and awareness of Allah in all interactions. Islam teaches that no act of compassion is ever too small to matter, because the value of a deed is not measured by its size, but by the sincerity behind it and the one for whom it is done. A simple gesture, performed quietly and without recognition, can carry immense weight in the sight of Allah. Small acts of compassion soften the heart, refine the soul, and strengthen a believer's awareness of accountability beyond what is seen. When a person chooses kindness in a moment where neglect would have been easier, that choice reflects faith in action. Islam draws attention to these seemingly minor deeds to remind believers that righteousness is built daily through consistency rather than grand displays. Every act of mercy becomes a form of worship when it is rooted in consciousness of Allah, even if it goes unnoticed by people. These small acts also train the believer to live with purpose and awareness in every situation. Offering food to a hungry animal, removing harm from a pathway, or showing patience toward a vulnerable creature may appear insignificant, yet they shape the character profoundly. Islam elevates such actions by linking them directly to divine reward, teaching that Allah's mercy is vast and not limited by human perception. A believer learns that opportunities for reward exist everywhere, in moments that others overlook or dismiss. Compassion becomes a habit rather than an exception, gradually transforming the heart and behavior. Through these acts, a believer develops humility, understanding that greatness in Islam lies in sincerity and service rather than status. Small acts of compassion also serve as reminders that Allah sees what people do in private, rewarding efforts made without expectation of praise. This understanding encourages believers to act with integrity, knowing that even the quietest good deed is never lost in the sight of Allah. Islam teaches that mercy shown to creation is directly connected to the mercy a servant hopes to receive from Allah. This principle shapes the believer's understanding of how faith is lived, not only through acts of worship, but through behavior toward every living being. When a person shows mercy to creation, they align themselves with a divine quality that Allah loves and encourages among His servants. Mercy is not limited to humans, it extends to animals, the environment, and all that exists under Allah's care. This awareness nurtures humility, reminding the believer that just as they rely on Allah's mercy for forgiveness and ease, other creatures rely on human mercy for safety and compassion. A heart that practices mercy becomes more receptive to guidance, patience, and gratitude, drawing the believer closer to Allah through daily conduct. This pathway to Allah's mercy is built through consistent, sincere actions that reflect concern for others without seeking recognition or reward from people. Mercy softens the heart and removes arrogance, teaching the believer to see themselves as part of a greater creation rather than above it. When mercy becomes a habit, it influences thoughts, words, and actions, shaping a character that reflects balance and gentleness. Islam emphasizes that Allah is aware of how His servants treat what He has created, and that awareness encourages mindfulness in every interaction. By choosing mercy over harshness, a believer demonstrates trust in Allah's justice and hope in His forgiveness. This connection between mercy given and mercy received transforms daily life into an opportunity for spiritual growth, where every interaction becomes a chance to draw nearer to Allah through kindness, restraint, and compassion toward all of creation. Islam teaches that mercy shown to creation is directly connected to the mercy a servant hopes to receive from Allah. This principle shapes the believer's understanding of how faith is lived, not only through acts of worship, but through behavior toward every living being. When a person shows mercy to creation, they align themselves with a divine quality that Allah loves and encourages among His servants. Mercy is not limited to humans, it extends to animals, the environment, and all that exists under Allah's care. This awareness nurtures humility, reminding the believer that just as they rely on Allah's mercy for forgiveness and ease, other creatures rely on human mercy for safety and compassion. A heart that practices mercy becomes more receptive to guidance, patience, and gratitude, drawing the believer closer to Allah through daily conduct. This pathway to Allah's mercy is built through consistent, sincere actions that reflect concern for others without seeking recognition or reward from people. Mercy softens the heart and removes arrogance, teaching the believer to see themselves as part of a greater creation rather than above it. When mercy becomes a habit, it influences thoughts, words, and actions, shaping a character that reflects balance and gentleness. Islam emphasizes that Allah is aware of how His servants treat what He has created, and that awareness encourages mindfulness in every interaction. By choosing mercy over harshness, a believer demonstrates trust in Allah's justice and hope in His forgiveness. This connection between mercy given and mercy received transforms daily life into an opportunity for spiritual growth, where every interaction becomes a chance to draw nearer to Allah through kindness, restraint, and compassion toward all of creation. Loving animals is a quiet yet powerful reminder of a person's faith and character, because it reveals what lives within the heart when no recognition is expected. Animals do not praise, thank, or repay kindness, yet Islam teaches that how a believer treats them speaks volumes about their relationship with Allah. A heart that inclines toward compassion for animals is a heart that understands accountability beyond human observation. This love is not driven by benefit or convenience, but by awareness that every living being is a creation of Allah, deserving of care and dignity. When a believer shows gentleness to animals, it reflects an inner discipline shaped by faith, patience, and humility, qualities that cannot be easily faked. Such love demonstrates that faith is not limited to words or rituals, but is deeply rooted in everyday behavior and choices. This reflection of faith and character becomes clearer in moments where no one is watching and no reward seems immediate. Choosing to protect an animal from harm, to feed it, or to allow it to live without fear requires a conscience that is alive and responsive. Islam emphasizes that true character is revealed through actions taken in private, and love for animals often exists in those unseen moments. This compassion trains the soul to be mindful, nurturing consistency between belief and behavior. A believer who is gentle with animals is more likely to be just with people, patient in hardship, and restrained in anger, because mercy shapes the entire personality. Through this love, faith moves from theory into practice, manifesting in softness, responsibility, and awareness of Allah in every interaction with His creation. In reflecting on all of this, we come to understand that love, mercy, and compassion are not small side qualities in Islam, but central signs of a heart connected to Allah. The way a person treats animals, especially those that are quiet, vulnerable, and dependent, reveals the depth of their faith and the sincerity of their character. These acts of kindness are not overlooked, no matter how simple they may seem, because Allah is fully aware of every intention and every gesture made for His sake. Through mercy to creation, hearts are softened, arrogance is removed, and faith becomes something lived rather than merely spoken. This reminder calls believers to remain gentle in a harsh world, conscious in careless moments, and merciful in every interaction, knowing that the path to Allah's mercy is paved with compassion shown to all that He has created,